Entry number 1, June 1954. If you look at a map of Ohio, Dayton is just a tiny black dot. But to me, it's a universe. It smells like fresh-cut grass in the morning and heavy factory smoke by the afternoon. My name is Thomas Edward Miller. Everyone calls me Tommy. I'm 22, and I've spent every single one of those years right here. I'm a guy who likes his coffee black, his radios tuned to the jazz station, and his life predictable. I live in a house on Elm Street. It's a quiet place, or at least it tries to be. My father, Frank, he didn't just live in this house. He was the silence of it. It wasn't the kind of silence that's just an empty space. It was something thick and heavy, a physical weight that filled every nook and cranny, from the shadows under the stairs to the cracks in the ceiling. He was a towering man, with shoulders so broad you'd swear he could carry the entire gray sky of this countryside on his back. But in reality, what he was truly carrying was a jagged shard of 1918, a piece of his soul left behind in some muddy, blood-soaked trench of the Great War. He brought it home and tucked it away under his weathered skin and calloused hands, letting it become his silent companion. He rarely spoke. Words, when they did escape him, were dry and clipped like the sound of gravel dropping down a deep well. Instead, Frank chose to communicate with the world through his gaze. Every evening, once the sun had dipped behind the hills, he'd head out to the porch and sit in that old, worn-out wooden chair. He'd just stare, eyes fixed on the cornfield stretching out endlessly in front of him. To Frank, the towering corn was ghostly infantry. Each rustle echoed muffled footsteps through no man's land. He sat like a statue carved from trauma, waiting for a comrade, an enemy, or his 1918 self to crawl from the stalks, shaking off the mud to collect an unpaid debt. This wasn't a harvest. It was a perimeter where an old soldier still pulled guard duty against the hellfire of his own memory. The corn wasn't a harvest. It was a perimeter. Like a soldier denied his discharge, Frank stayed on guard duty, holding the fragile line between a quiet porch and the hellfire of 1918. Then there's Mom, Martha. If my father was the heavy silence of this house, she was its heartbeat, its necessary noise. She was a constant symphony of small sounds, the sharp clatter of porcelain, the rhythmic scrubbing of cast-iron pans, and the low, steady humming of old church hymns. She used those melodies to patch the holes left by Frank's missing words. As if silence were a predator, she had to keep at bay with the sheer force of her presence. Her world was draped in the scent of flour and the sharp, comforting sting of cinnamon. Her apron wasn't just clothing. It was her armor. Martha believed in a simple, fierce kind of magic. She believed that if she kept the oven hot enough and the kitchen glowing with light, the cold from the world outside, the same world that had shattered Frank's spirit, could never cross our threshold. She didn't just cook. She built a fortress. I'd watch her knead dough with the quiet intensity, as if she were shaping hope itself with her calloused, flour-dusted hands. She worked as though the steam from her soup could somehow thaw the ice in my father's chest, and her domestic bustle could drown out the phantom artillery still echoing in his mind. She was the keeper of the flame, a woman who spent her life fighting back the darkness with nothing but a white apron and a song that never quite ended. And Sarah, my sweet sister, you gave me this diary expecting a hero story, but the truth is, I'm just a boy who loves the Dayton sunsets, terrified of leaving you and this life behind.
You have a row of dominoes set up. You knock over the first one, and what will happen to the last one is the certainty that it will go over very quickly. You have a row of dominoes set up. You knock over the first one, and what will happen to the last one is the certainty that it will go over very quickly.
Don't go, Tommy.
He spoke then. It wasn't the voice of a father scolding a son, nor was it fueled by any flicker of rage. It was as flat as a frozen lake hollow, lifeless, and so cold it sent a shiver straight through my marrow.
There isn't a damn scrap of glory to be found in that mud, son,
he said, each word dropping slow and heavy, like the distant thud of artillery.
People like to paint pictures of medals and parades under a morning sun. But the truth is, glory can't survive in those rotting trenches. Down there you'll find nothing but mud, blood, and ghosts. The ghosts of the men who fell, and the ghosts of the lucky ones who made it out but left their souls behind in the dark forever.
But back then, I was just 22 with a pulse that thrummed with fire. At that age, you carry the arrogance of immortality. To me, my father's words felt like a distant echo from a bygone era, a phantom fear I was certain I could outrun. I'd spent my youth fed on black and white newsreels in the Saturday matinees. I saw the boys storming the beaches of Normandy with their heads held high. I saw them grinning as they handed out chocolate bars to kids in Paris. I wanted a seat at that table of giants. I wanted to be one of the liberators, to feel the crisp weight of a dress uniform and save the world from the creeping red menace. I craved a purpose larger than this small-town life, larger than the endless rows of Kansas corn and the suffocating rhythm of days that led nowhere. I looked in the mirror and saw a man brimming with ideals, a man who wanted to be a hero, just like John Wayne on the silver screen. The world out there was on fire, and I couldn't bear to sit in that warm kitchen listening to stories about ghosts. The next morning, before the first light could burn the mist off the Kansas plains, I slipped out of the house. The rattle of my beat-up old truck carried me straight to the recruitment office downtown. Without a second thought, I took the pen, drew a deep breath, and signed my name on the enlistment papers. The ink was still wet on that crisp white sheet, and I truly believed I had just written the opening lines of a hero's epic. I had no way of knowing that the ghosts my father spoke of were already waiting for me, grinning in the shadows on the other side of the ocean deep within the suffocating jungles of Indochina.